Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you how to make the 16 round 3D printed Rival magazine that I have been working on the past couple weeks here, and I'll just go over everything here on the table and then we'll get started. This is not one of the things. Alright, so you'll need something to cut with. We'll be cutting this string, or this shock cord, and the filament, and some other things. And you'll need some kind of deburring tool. A knife is just fine, but I prefer the deburring tool like this one. I've had my run-ins with knives, so I'll try to not cut myself today. You'll need some super glue. You'll need a zip tie that will be used as a tool just for cleaning out the prints. I haven't cleaned any of these prints up yet, so I'll show you everything that needs to be done there. And then you'll need a file and pliers, and you'll need a file that has kind of a pretty narrow gap, and it's not completely necessary, but it would be very nice to have. And then lastly, you'll need a lighter. And then anyway, that's for the tools. What the spring that will be this magazine today is this shock cord, which this is I believe 1/16 inch shock cord. There will be a link in the description. And then you will need just a piece of filament, probably 3 inches long or so, doesn't really matter. And then here we have the 5 pieces that you can print and find on Thingiverse. And these 4 are printed without support material, which I think is completely fine, even though these have holes in there. I just get in there with a file and the deburr tool, and I can remove any of those the little stringing that's going on in there. You can just remove that, and you'll be fine. But then this piece here, you do need to print with support material. All right, so let's get to it. So I'm going to start off with deburring all these parts. And then here on this hole, it's often nice to just take a knife point and like push it into the hole and just give it a good twist there, and that'll clear up that hole there pretty good. We'll need that later. Obviously, these 2 taller parts were printed with brims on the base, just because they're so tall. I didn't want them to tip over or anything during the print. But that first layer tends to fan out, so it's really important to deburr the inside of this circle here, because that's where the follower often can get caught if you don't do that. Just give that a good run around. Just kind of make a little light chamfer there on that edge so that it doesn't have a chance of doing that. And then same thing right here on this square. Just make sure that's nice and not prone to catching anything. All these parts were printed on a Prusa MK3S, which I love. So they're pretty pretty smooth on the outside. But if your parts are, you know, a lot more gritty on the outside, or you printed with a, you know, a larger layer height or larger nozzle or something, I would recommend sanding the follower down a little bit. But other than that, just make sure you're taking care of this outside edge here, so that it doesn't also rub against the outside of the magazine, just because the layers are in the same direction, and that just increases the amount of friction there is. All right, so the last thing of deburring is just taking this zip tie and just pushing it through these holes here. So here, this is the base part, and I'm just gonna push this through here, and I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna push it through again, just to clean it out, because we're gonna be sticking the shock cord through there in a minute. It looks like I missed this edge right here. I'll just pick that out with my fingernail. It's important to get these little squares out as well, just because the shock cord also needs to move freely as it is expanding and contracting. All right, so these two parts are done. This part's done. Looks like we're all done. All right, so the next part is the actual first part of assembly, which is putting together the this cap here that will be going on the top, and that will be done using some pins. And part of the several things that I took from GDop's design that I remixed this from effectively. I just took some outside dimensions, the idea of using shock cord, and also the idea of using filament as a pin. So I will be straightening out this filament with this lighter, which might seem a little scary, but it's really not that bad. So I'm just going to be lighting this up right there, and then you just want it to just start to straighten out. And if you light it on fire, it's no big deal. It'll burn just like any polymer, but if you drop it or something, it'll basically just liquefy, so you don't have to worry about burning your house down or anything. Yeah, there we go. So just let that cool down. Let those polymer chains recrystallize. Almost there. All right, and if you blackened it at all, there's a little blackened piece here. If you blackened it at all, that's just out. That's just little burned myrrh parts on the outside, so you can just rub those off. And then I'm just going to pick the straightest part, which is like this. I'm going to cut off this kind of curvy part there, and then I'm going to cut this right in half so that I have two nice pins. All right, so let's get rid of some stuff that I'm not using anymore. All right, now onto the actual assembly. So first we're going to take this shock cord, and we're going to probably need, I don't know, you want enough that you can actually get a hold of it and tie a knot in it. I don't know, we'll cut it once we get this first knot tied here. So we're going to thread it through both of these top parts with the divot there, and just thread it through and tie a knot as close to the end as you can reasonably, and then you're going to pull on it, make sure that that knot's not going to come through there, which it is not because the hole is the right size. And then we're going to take our pliers here and we're going to grab on-to this right at there, and you're going to pull it as tight as you can until it's stretched out, like really stretched out there, so that it's like it's a rope. Like it has no elasticity left. And then we're just going to cut this off at, like, I don't know. Let's give ourselves a little bit room, because you don't want quite a bit here, because you're going to have to tie a knot with one hand. So just going to tie a knot. Oh, almost. Come on. Oh. It's really not bad. This is the hardest part of the entire thing, so it's really not that hard. And you're going to want to, once you get that knot in there, you're going to want to cinch it down as close as you can get to your nose of your pliers. You just keep pushing it all the way down, as close as you can get. You want this thing as tight as you can possibly have it. All right, so once you've got that on there, just pull it out. Feel that spring is pretty good. And then we're just gonna come in here and we're gonna cut both of these off. Now you could probably burn these ends, and I might do that later, but for now I'm just gonna leave it. All right, so we're gonna get rid of this. The next part is you're just going to grab one of your lengths of pin, and we're going to just stick it through the finger here. This is what retains the balls, and we'll just spin it around here. And this is one of the good things about using the filament, is that it's, you know, smooth on the outside, so we actually have somewhat of a good bearing situation here. So we're going to take this and we're going to stick it down in the bottom of the top here, and we're going to put this through the bottommost hole and push it through, and then you're going to push it through that hole we just had it in, and you're going to push it all the way through. So as you can see, it's rotating on this axis here, and it's pushing up against that spring if you push it there. Yep, so there we go. And then you're going to take your next one and you're going to stick it through this hole, and you're going to have to push this back so that it actually moves out of the way for it. There you go. So it should be something like that. Pretty stiff. The stiffer the better. You really want to hold those rounds in. All right, so now we're gonna glue this. So we're gonna take our super glue here, and I'm just gonna do a little drop there and a drop there. And I kind of got a little too much, but that's okay, because I can wipe it off. So I'm just gonna get that on there, and you don't want to actually do what I just did. You don't want to move them once you got the glue on there, because you don't want it getting into the finger and gluing the finger so it can't rotate, which is good. All right, so I got some on my finger, so let's see, where's a napkin? All right, wipe that off, wipe some of this off. All right. All right, so while we're letting that dry, we will start with the actual magazine here. So what we're gonna need to do is so we're going to thread this through here, and this part shouldn't have glue in it, so it'll be fine. So we're going to stick it right up the back there, and then push it in a little bit. And if you have to, you can push the finger back. It has an edge on there to help you get the shock cord through. So once you get it through, just pull it through, and then you're going to thread it back down through that hole right in the back, right there. Thread it through there. There. So now that that's done, we're going to take, I just have it attached to this, we're going to take the follower and we're going to thread it through this hole right here, right in the bottom of the follower. And then we'll need something to grab it. Pull through, and now we're going to tie 2 knots in the bottom of this, because if this comes out, if this knot comes out, you really can't get in there to do maintenance on it. So you don't want it coming out. There we go. So 2 knots, nice and big knot there. We're gonna just trim this off right there, and just burn that. All right, that's good. That's good. This glue is drying up. So I'm gonna take my cutters here, and these are nice because they can cut really close. If you don't have these, I would recommend cutting this before you glue it, so that it's just a little shorter than it needs to be, so that it doesn't stick out at all. All right. Now I've got glued pieces on here and on my fingers. All right, let's wipe that off. All right. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab our top piece. So that'll be this one. You're going to want to make sure that the grip ridges are at the bottom, and that this channel is oriented with the channel that's coming out the back of the magazine here. So it'll be like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue this. Now I'm going to apply the glue here, and I'm going to apply it around the outside here, but I'm going to try to stay away from the area right around where that string comes out, because I don't want to glue the shock cord to itself or to the wall or anything. Then I'm also going to try to avoid this back here too. So there's quite a bit of surface area for glue to go on. So it's pretty good. Oh, and then I got a big old piece. Let me get that off there. All right, so now we're going to put this thing on here. So I'm going to hold the string up so it doesn't stick, and then I'm going to put this on and push down. So now comes the alignment. Your hands might get a little glue on them from this. Lucky for me, I already have a lot of glue on my hands, so I don't really care. And you just want to make sure that's all lined up there. There. And if you use more glue than that, it's gonna come out the sides. Just be warned. So I'm gonna push this follower down here into the magazine so that it doesn't get glued with any of that seeping into the middle. And I'm gonna do one more piece of deburr here, which I forgot to do earlier, and I'm gonna use my deburr tool, but you could use a knife or whatever. See that little string in there? That needs to be removed. so the follower can go all the way down. The deburr tool is just perfect for this because I can get in there and just cut that out. That's one of the things of not having support material, is that you will have any overhang will have sagging parts. So all of these little overhangs in here, they're completely fine. But that big one right there is the one that matters. So that's gluing up pretty nicely. So let's glue this. Glue the base on here now. So same thing as before, but you don't have to be as careful, which is good because there's nothing to accidentally glue. So we're just gonna take this and stick it right on there. And once again, make sure that it's all lined up, because the hole in the middle, it matters if it's lined up. Everything else on the outside kind of doesn't. But the only thing you can see is the outside pieces there. All right, so now we have our magazine with all the parts attached. So we are done with these tools, and all this could go into more magazines, but now we need to cut our length. So I'm going to just string this out nice and loose, probably about that much. Don't need much more than that because we're going to be tensioning it a little bit. Okay, so I think this top is dry enough now that we can pull the follower up here. And what you'll want to do is you want to pull this black part back so that the follower can come up. And so that's its maximum position. And then we'll thread it through all these holes we got here. And I'll explain why the follower needs to be all the way up here in a second. So we're gonna take this, and I just use my fingernail at an angle, and I just kind of push it through. Just kind of coax it right through there. And that's definitely the benefit of using that zip tie. If you don't have a zip tie, I don't know what else you could use. And if you try long enough, you will make it through there without cleaning it up. And maybe your print doesn't have as much stringing going on as mine does, but anyway, okay. So now we're done with those things there, right there. Done with all of that. So now we're going to actually push this follower back down. So we're gonna pull this back, and we're gonna tug on this, and we're gonna see at what length does the follower come out past that. Which one? It'll kind of like, you'll kind of see it like. So I'll like toggle this back and forth. We'll want enough that it'll push past there. And if you don't put enough tension there, it won't feed the last round of the magazine, which is sometimes the most important round. Okay, so I'm just gonna use my fingernail here to hold that in place. And once again, I'll be I'm just gonna tie it without holding it there or anything. So I'm gonna tie a knot, just pull it out so that I have enough. Tie and oh, it came undone, man. How unlucky. All right, there we go. Tighten that up, and then we're gonna see. Oh, see that? When I pull this back, the magazine comes up to the top. The follower comes up to the top of the magazine, that is. So this is in a good spot. So that means we're gonna tie another one, because we don't want this slipping through and compromising the spring of our magazine. All right, so now we will take our cutters and trim that end right off of there. All right, and there is the magazine, and this looks like it is dried up now, so that is good, nice and cured. It's pretty strong, and of course the more glue you put on there, the stronger it'll be, of course. So let's go over the features here. So like I have in my Thingiverse description, you should definitely only be using this with the Hera. You can use it in the Apollo, or I forget the other blasters names, but just because the amount of spring force when this is filled up all the way, it's quite a lot, and the spring blasters will get a second round jammed in there usually. So there's that. I don't know how all of you are choosing to store your magazines, but I like to use these black clips here that come with regular Nerf magazines when you just buy them from the store, and 3D printed part that fits through my molly here that just has basically an imitation of the Rival rail on it that these go onto. So I have them glued on there, and then I have that zip tied down to make sure it doesn't come off. So I decided to put some attachment points onto these so that I can just put them on there, and then when I need them I can just tear it off. It's a little easier when I actually have it on to remove that, of course. But it's a pretty tight fit, so definitely don't have to worry about that coming off. All right, let's load it up. So now that you got your mag all assembled, you can stick it in your Hera. You might notice that it really doesn't want to go in there unless you really smack it, which is, you know, probably not something you want to do. So just take your file, and like I mentioned before, it's nice that it's kind of small. I can wedge it in there and take that kind of drooping material off of there that left over from that overhang print. There we go. Oh yeah, much better. So now I can just stick it in normal. Nice. All right. So now let me give you a little loading tutorial on this guy. I mean, it's about as straightforward as you can get with loading rounds, but this is a little trick I like to do to make sure everything's moving smoothly. So put one round in there and just start dropping them all in. You can see the rounds through this little slot here in the side, which I put in the most recent version. So it's not really a maximum number of rounds that these can carry. I don't know. There's some maximum, obviously, because the amount of friction is just going to keep going up and up. But I haven't really experimented with that. So I will leave the dimensions of the cross section on the Thingiverse page, and if you're so inclined, you can make your magazine longer. Now, as you notice there, I kind of stick my finger in here and I push it down to really get that follower all the way down in there, so it's not trying to like come out too much, if that makes any sense. But basically now the rounds are in there. You know, if I start swinging this thing around by this end, they'll come out, but upside down and just like running and stuff, it's not gonna move. That's the other benefit of these magazines, is they don't make a ton of noise when they're empty and you're running around. But anyway, so I'm just gonna load this into the hair here, and I guess I'll just shoot into this bag. I don't know how many rounds I loaded, but let's see. I think there should be 16. Now the answer is 17, so there's your 16 or 17 round stick mag. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching, and have fun nerfing.